Whenever you're ready, Councilmember Blink.
All right, certainly. All right. So I just want to remind the commissioners that their mics may be muted except for when roll is being called and when the vote is being done. You have the council members, the commissioners have the ability to unmute themselves whenever you'd like to speak. All right, so can we go ahead and do roll call, please? Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to call this meeting of the Plaquemines Port Harbor Internal District to order at 5:04 p.m.
Roll call. Commissioner Bartholomew is absent. Commissioner Black?
Present.
Commissioner Arbrough? Commissioner Arbrough? Let the record reflect that he is in attendance, but his volume is not on. Commissioner Gouy?
Here.
Commissioner Roussel?
Here.
Commissioner Newberry?
Here.
Commissioner LaFrance?
Here.
Commissioner Koknovich?
Here.
Commissioner Blink?
Present.
Let the record reflect that 8 commissioners are present, with Commissioner Bartholomew being absent.
Right. Before we begin the prayer and the pledge, I'd like to just take a few moments to acknowledge that this is the Plaquemines Port Harbor Internal District's first virtual meeting due to the COVID-19 crisis. We've been working behind the scenes to develop a meeting format where as much participation as possible can happen for the public. We are not there yet. We have a long way to go, and we're going to continue to do that until folks are able to participate as much as possible without physically being in the room with us. As you can see from the screen, we're dispersed. The commissioners, staff members, we're all in different offices, and it's been very difficult to run a effective port operation during this time. But we're working at it and getting better every single day. And I just want to thank the public and staff for being patient as we work through this. All right. All right. Begin with the prayer. God, we'd like to thank you for keeping all of us safe and healthy during this very trying time, and for the continued blessings that this parish has, its bountiful natural resources, the ability for the parish and the port to pivot when these trying economic times come, to bring prosperity home to all folks here. Amen.
Amen.
Right. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance
To the flag
of the United States
of America.
to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it
it
stands,
stands, one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Should have said that. No. All right, moving down the agenda. Barb?
There is no executive session. Item number 3, status report by the Executive Port Director. General Sanders.
We'll roll back to that.
Agenda item 3, financial report, budget to actual.
Okay, this is Sandy. Can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. Go back to item 3, my executive director report. Good afternoon, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chairman, members of the board, and to all who have tuned in to this virtual meeting. I am Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. Follows is my Executive Director's report for the reporting period of 13 March through 22 April 2020. I have 5 items to report this afternoon. During this time frame, the port has participated in weekly virtual teleconferences hosted by the American Association of Port Authorities, another hosted by the Maritime Administration, and a third hosted by Inland River Port Terminals, discussing best practices during the COVID-19 era. The second item, the port staff has continued to work through 3 projects covered by non-disclosure agreements via video teleconferences and has managed workarounds in order to continue the due diligence process regarding these timelines. The port staff has instituted weekly telephone meetings with those who are working mainly from home. These meetings have been very productive in ensuring that all staff members and their extended family needs are addressed and remedied within our port family capabilities. Work-related outstanding commitments are coordinated and completed on time, and anticipated workarounds are adequately vetted. I would like to recognize the efforts of both Christy Nielsen and Donald Durr, who are here with me. Sean Bell Riley is on location at our house in ensuring all port responsibilities within their swim lanes were being met. I would also like to recognize the very dedicated and unselfish efforts of our rank and file staff members who have taken it upon themselves to come in during weekends and after hours, ensuring billing, payroll, et cetera, has been maintained. So great job, staff. I have received word from Colonel Murphy with the United States Army Corps of Engineers that all the requirements for parcel B3 have been received and verified. He stated that the District 408 agency technical review was completed, and now the 408 coordinator will prepare a summary of findings and submit for signature to conclude the 408 process. The regulatory branch will receive the signed summary of findings and incorporate that into the 404 permit, and the final permit is underway. He expects it will be finalized on or around 8 May of 2020. I'd like to recognize our Deputy Port Director, Paul Matthews, for quarterbacking this issue. Everyone on the board realizes there was a lot of snafus in this process. It was quite an arduous road with the high river, unprecedented for 15, 16, 17 months. And there was a lot of things that we were plagued with, but it pulled through. And this is what we've all been waiting to deliver to Venture Global to be able to deliver that parcel B3. Okay. Lastly, we were asked to send a list of infrastructure projects together to add to GNO Inc. in their master list in the event a phase 4 infrastructure stimulus is floated. Our projects, we have 5. First one is the New Orleans Gulf Coast Rail Realignment for $350 million, getting the rail out of Gretna and around the Naval Air Station. The second one is the Peters Road Extension and Bypass. We've requested $60 million. The third one is to bring the New Orleans to Venice NFL, the levee, to a full appropriation of 50-year flood protection. Right now it's only funded to 25, so we asked for $200 million on that. We asked for $4 million for the Coast Guard to elevate their road at the Venice Port Complex. And the last one has no price tag on it. It really is a request to fast track our permitting for the Plaquemines Port Container Terminal. Again, no financial requests. The CapEx for that project will be privately funded. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my report, subject to your questions or comments from the board or whomever.
Thank you very much, Sandy. When did the B3 property relocation begin?
Gee, it's been 3-4 years.
We started 2017.
Yeah, 2017. It's been a long time. And it's been a myriad of snafus. At one point, the colonel before this one, Colonel Mike Clancy, we called a meeting with him, and their executive officer found out that 2 of his department heads thought the other one was doing work, just a variety of errors. And then the biggest one was really the high water river, and they couldn't get to the property itself.
All right, that affected permitting, huh? All right. Okay.
That's
What
correct.
about so for the Peters Road bypass, for the infrastructure project that you're recommending for consideration in the phase 4 stimulus package due to COVID-19, you mentioned $60 million for the Peters Road bypass. Is that sufficient?
That extends Peters Road over the intercoastal waterway and connects Highway 23. It provides for, that will give us an additional evacuation route. This is my write-up when we send it in. We have 2 parishes, both Plaquemines and Jefferson Parish are supporting it, and it will be more efficient onward movement of cargo, facilitating the port development.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to open it up for the commissioners. Do you have any questions? We may be having a little bit of a technical issue, so wave your hands in front of the screen or anything like that if you'd like to ask any questions, please. All right, seeing none. Surprise. All right. Moving on the agenda then.
3A, financial report, budget to actual.
At this moment, I will give a full financial report at the next meeting regarding the budget to actual, but I would like to report that in March of 2020, the port did not see a major impact from the COVID-19 as far as the tariff fees and the activity on the river.
Thank you very much, Ambrell. Do you have are there any questions from the panel? Okay. All right, moving on the agenda. Thank you very much.
Bids and advertisements, there are none. Number 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Chairman, we do have several introductions to be read into the record. The first one is for Commissioner Newberry. A resolution authorizing Maynard Sandy Sanders as Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District to extend the agreement with Triton Holdings, Inc. for the implementation of the port's master plan.
Sandy wants to say
with
something.
respect thereto.
Sandy's asking a question.
Yes,
Okay.
we had bids and advertisement. 3.
Those were offered in as resolutions to be introduced.
Thank you. Sorry.
The following introductions are for Commissioner Blink. An ordinance authorizing the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District to accept funds from Port Security Grant Program number EMW-2018-PU-00023 for cybersecurity hardware software system upgrades, maintenance, implementation, and security equipment and otherwise provide with respect thereto. A resolution to amend and as amended readopt resolution number 19-251 dated September 26, 2019 with regards to the agreement with Coastal Engineering Solutions, LLC, relevant to the engineering services needed for the beneficial use of dredge material, bike map project to dredge Tiger Pass and otherwise provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing Maynard J. Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, to enter into a professional services agreement with Fort Myer Bush Hog and Demolition Services, LLC, for fencing of port property and otherwise provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing Maynard J. Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, to enter into a professional services agreement with Intelligent Transportation Services, LLC, for IT operations and maintenance services for the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District and otherwise provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing Maynard J. Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, to enter into a professional services agreement with Intelligent Transportation Services, LLC, for surveillance cameras for the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And the last introduction, a resolution authorizing Maynard J. Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, to enter into an agreement for business consulting services, focusing on the port's procurement policy with blank for the improvement and possible development of a new policy and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the introductions.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Moving down the agenda to number 6.
Ordinances and ordinances and resolutions on second and final passage.
Oh, it looks like there's some
6B.
questions from staff.
Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, I believe there was one resolution that was not introduced regarding Trident Holdings contract renewal. I think Ms. Trudy has that introduction.
That has been read.
Okay,
Yeah,
It was the first one.
I missed it. I apologize. I missed it.
6B, a resolution establishing a calendar policy for the administrative staff of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Chairman, we do have changes for this item.
Barbara, would you feel comfortable reading the changes, or is that too much?
Yes, sir. The
Thank
changes are in
She'll-
the line 1 of the resolution. We're removing administrative staff and replacing with executive director and deputy director. On line 7, we're removing the word staff and replacing it with deputy director. On line 9, we're removing the word staff and replacing it with deputy director. On line 13, we're adding, at the end of the sentence, we're adding while not compromising non-disclosure agreements. On line 36, after the executive director, we're including the word and. Then it has deputy director, and then we're removing port director of administration and director of port security and vessels. On page 2, line number 19, after the words executive director, we're including the words and the deputy director, and we're removing the words and each employee of the port to whom it is applicable. And with that, Mr. Chairman, those are the end of the changes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rathburn, is everything okay with this legislation?
We need a second on that. before
I'll
we hear
second.
discussion. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm coming. Mr. Rathburn?
Okay.
You're unmuted.
I don't think there's anything illegal about it. If that,
Okay, so it's fully within the limits of the law. We're having a hard time hearing you. Mr. Garrett, I see you're unmuted now. Do you have any comments?
Well, it like got garbled for a second.
Okay. Ken, could you please repeat? Just technical difficulties here.
can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I don't believe there's anything legally problematic about it.
About the proposed changes?
I thought that's what the question was.
Or what the policy in general? Is that's firmly?
No, yeah. I mean, I think the policy is perfectly valid. I mean, understanding that all those calendars are public record, but my understanding was this formed a formal policy to make sure that information was going to flow directly without the need to ask for it each time, and certainly including the language with regard to not impairing any NDAs is appropriate.
As long as there's no violation of attorney-client privilege or the NDAs, I I mean, I agree with Danny.
Well, in the attorney-client privilege issue, since all the commissioners make up the governing body, there's really not, I mean, the privilege is theirs, essentially. Now, they certainly would have to maintain the privilege. They have an obligation to maintain it because the privilege is owned by the district, the entity of which they are the governing authority. But it's no different than if they are provided attorney-client information by Rennie, for example, in their role as council members on a parish matter.
I wasn't talking about the commissioners themselves being informed of it. I was talking about dissemination of anything. I mean, we need to have a safeguard to make sure that there isn't a violation. I was not trying to say that council isn't.
Well, right, and just as, and that's what I was just trying to say is just like whenever they receive privileged information about the parish, they're supposed to keep that. They're generally not at liberty to share that. And if someone would try to allege that the information that they got was a matter of public record, if it was privileged, if it was subject to a privilege, I think they would have a fiduciary duty to assert that privilege, because the privilege can only be waived by the body, not by an individual. But like I said, I think the NDA language is appropriate because there is some stuff that maybe they might not realize, and as long as it's fairly clear that they're maintaining those NDAs, the stuff that falls within it, because ports have a little broader notion of what can be maintained confidential from an economic development standpoint. And I think the port has filed those notices, so I think everybody understands that.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I would open up to any of the commissioners.
I would like to say something, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Okay. It might be written up legally, but I have stated my position on this earlier and it hasn't changed. I still say this is an administrative burden. Our calendars change daily, sometimes hourly. This is not the leadership style I've ever used with my subordinates, nor is it the style that most of my successful commanders that I've been associated with throughout my career have ever used. We have given our subordinates clear guidance, and they periodically update me or the deputy as to where they are in those projects. We have shared our goals with the chairman and vice chairman and implemented a series of updated meetings on those goals. And I think this is more of a tail wagging the dog. But you guys are the board, and y'all were going to vote however you vote.
Sure. So, Mr. Sanders, I've asked, multiple times, I'd like to be very much up to date on, what's being worked on and not have to put a puzzle together to figure that type of thing out. And, while I respect the leadership styles you're familiar with, the port is not a military organization. It's a municipal economic development engine, and in the leadership there and the commissioners are ultimately responsive to the general public here to build a port that fits the needs of the community, as well as something that's economically viable. We want to have a decent heads up about what's happening there. Any other?
I don't think that you're getting anything that's not economically viable. What you want is what we want. We have given you our goals. You didn't change any of them. We report on our goals as they progress. You and the vice chairman, we do it every 2 weeks. I have even brought you in on things that are covered by NDAs that are really not ready for public consumption because you have asked. So I think we're being very forthcoming. But the devil in the details, if you look at how this is written up, we're going to spend an inordinate amount of our time going back and making sure that everyone that was in a meeting was annotated. It's just going to be an administrative burden.
Chairman Blake, I just want to let you know that Commissioner Roussel, I believe, raised his hand.
Okay. Please please cue him in.
Yes, it's my turn.
Yes.
Yes, Sandy, with all due respect, this is no more than the governor puts out on his schedule. This is strictly an effort to have accountability as to know what is going on. I'm kind of dumbfounded by us having this discussion in light of the contract that comes up on the agenda down the line. I thought we had an understanding that we were going to get some accountability and we were going to do some things that everybody would feel more comfortable with moving forward. And as far as, not being able to share some of that with us without the violation of the NDAs is beyond me. Why y'all would be apprehensive to do that. So, my agreement with some of my colleagues were that, I'm hoping that we're going to get some transparency here.
If this were in place, we would have knew Mr. Matthews was going to Baton Rouge to make comments about the bridge. Any other commissioners would like to chime in? Legal? All right. I'd like to call a question.
Commissioner Black,
No.
Commissioner Arbrough,
No.
Commissioner Gooey,
No.
Commissioner Roussel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newberry,
No.
Commissioner LaFrance,
Yes.
Commissioner Blink,
Yes.
and Commissioner Koknovich.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that there are 4 yes votes and 4 no votes.
I just want to make a comment that my commitment to my colleagues on this, and in light of the vote, does not hold my commitment to the following vote that'll come up in a little while.
Moving down the agenda.
6C.
But Barbara, before we move on, just so the public at home can follow, the unusual situation, we have a member absent, not an unusual situation. We have a member absent, it's 4-4. Could you please just state for the record, this is passed.
I'm sorry, you broke up. Can you repeat that, please?
Since one member is missing, we have a 4-4. Just could you please state for the folks at home if this is pass or fail for the record?
The item has failed.
Yeah, it fails on a tie vote.
C. A resolution authorizing and directing Maynard J. Sandy Sanders, the Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to execute an employment contract for services by Paul Matthews as Deputy Port Director between the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District and Paul Matthews, effective April 30th, 2020, for a term of 3 years and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Chairman, we do have some changes that were received for this piece of legislation.
Got it. Please read them.
Okay, on page 1, line 2, we would be inserting after to execute, we would be inserting after the word and extension of. On line 5, changing the term from 3 years to 1 year. On line 9, changing it to say Harbor and Terminal District to extend the existing contract for employment. On line 11, changing 3 years to 1 year and changing the date from April 30th, 2023 to April 30th, 2021. On line 18, we would be inserting the words extension of the existing. On line 20, would be removing in an initial amount of $131,000 annually, and also changing 3 years to 1 year. On the contract, there are also some changes as well. It's a substitute. The first one is changing the address of Mr. Matthews from 707 Cleary Avenue to 3617 Clearview Parkway, Metairie, Louisiana, 70006. On line 23, inserting the title Executive Director. On page 4, line 91. It shall be for 1 year beginning on April 30th, 2020. On page 5, line 131, changing the address from 707 Cleary Avenue to 3617 Clearview Parkway. On line 132, changing the zip code from 70001 to 70006. Mr. Chairman, those are the end of the changes.
All right, I'd like to open it up to the floor.
You offer it or I'll second.
Yeah, I'd like to offer it.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, we also have some emails that have been received for this piece of legislation.
Okay. Could you please read those?
Sure.
Or
The
should,
first
or should we hear from the panel first? We should hear from the panel first.
Actually, I think you probably go ahead and get the public comment out the way. You got a motion in a second. I think that's y'all's tradition how you do it. Then after the public, then the panel discusses and votes, I think.
Certainly. All right.
But usually no, but whatever y'all
Okay.
want to do. Either way.
The first email is dated April 23rd, 2020 at 10:58 a.m. from Mr. Donald Billy. And the message is as follows. Members, agenda item 6C. I believe enough action, no production exists, not only to terminate, not renew Mr. Matthews' contract. I also believe current economic situation leading to the financial hardship both for the parish and the port are very uncertain, and until detail in-depth reviews are made into income and operational expenses, that all efforts be made to curb unnecessary purchases and expenses, including renewing any contracts, especially ones where there has been no evaluation as to performance or need. Having been a successful businessman in both banking and major ship repairer, employing over 1,600 employees at one time, I would cut my losses and terminate this position, and seriously reprimand the executive director, as it was his responsibility to see all employees knew and carried out the port board policies, not the ones he likes. The board, through its chairman, is the port vote no. On the next email is from Betsy Pavlovich, received Thursday, April 23rd, 2020 at 11:43 a.m. I would like to support Paul Matthews' employment contract renewal for at least 3 years. I understand that an amendment will be proposed to decrease his contract to 1 year. No one can plan their life based on a 1-year contract. I believe we would benefit by keeping the people in place with established relationships for as long as possible, as long as they are dedicated and productive. I believe Mr. Matthews fits this criteria. And then the third email received is from Mr. Robert Forche on Thursday, April the 23rd, 2020 at 11:49 a.m. Commissioners, the executive director and deputy director should neither be employed strictly due to the performance of the port and the fact that there has not been one project that has been brought to fruition, no shovels in the ground, absolutely no progress except promises and dreams. The most important infrastructure project to support the port, Peters Road Extension Bridge, which will not happen due to the Bell Chase Toll Bridge that was supported by the Port Administration. The state is going to receive windfalls from the tolls, and the Peters Road Bridge would take those windfalls from the state and would not benefit the state to build that bridge. All of the work that has been touted to have been done by the Port Administration could have been accomplished with a good salesman for about 1/3 of the budget that has been expended. For these reasons and many others, we don't have time to discuss. Both directors should be fired for non-performance of their duties. Do the right thing for the good of the parish and vote no. At a minimum, if there is a contract no more than a year with no increase, it should be done. And that is the end of the emails.
like to open it up for discussion from the commissioners.
I have a question for Paul.
Yes, sir.
Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor and Terminal, who owns it?
Who owns it?
State or the parish?
Well, you have to check the state statutes. According to the state statutes, it's pretty clear what type of entity it is. As far as who owns it, I don't understand the question.
Well, who do you follow?
Well, I follow the port director and the board.
And the state, what the state has to do with anything in it?
I don't understand the question. What does the state have to do with as far as what?
Anything.
Well, I would check the statutes. I would just defer you to the statutes. The state has anything to do with the port.
Mr. Rathburn?
I think, yeah, probably attorneys can answer that question better than me.
Because you've given your opinion of it before, and you always say that you working for the state.
I've never said that, sir.
Said the state is over the Port of Plaquemines.
I've never said that, made that comment either, sir.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Blink, Councilmember Roussel has his hand raised.
Oh, please acknowledge Benny.
Hello?
Yes.
Am I on now?
Yes, sir.
I look at this contract with a 1-year renewal at the existing terms, and, you know, it's something that I was viewing that we would have a calendar policy and that we could evaluate over the next year. And since the administration has chosen not to do that, I have grave concerns about the purpose of this contract. I personally heard those comments about during the discussion, you know, that we're a state entity and we do this, and, you know, we've already litigated that issue. So I don't know that that means anything other than to those individuals that refuse to accept the judgment and refuse to acknowledge what the port really is. And so looking at this 1-year renewal, you know, I made a commitment to 2 of my colleagues that I would support the 1 year. But I also thought that my colleagues were going to support accountability and a calendar. Some accountability has to be had. And if we continue to go down this route, we will continue to have this conflict about what's really going on over there at the port. So I don't know if Mr. Matthews has accepted the court judgment and is willing to work under those terms. So I guess, Mr. Matthews, it's a question for you.
Yeah, the judgment is the judgment. We've all accepted that judgment. I don't understand what that has to do with my job description and performance and competence, work ethic, or anything like that. This is a contract evaluating with me and continuing on doing what I'm doing. As far as the judgment, which I don't think is relative in this conversation, we've all accepted the judgment, and that's been from day one. So,
well, that's a good answer. I just got, you know, some communication encouraging me to vote no on your contract, and that would make me feel better probably than what I'm going to wind up doing, because I don't believe that, you know, this double talk that I keep getting when I have conversations with you are worthy of it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Please go.
You're good. You're on. Yes, he recognized you.
Yeah, right. I know that Mr. Matthews has been here since his arrival. He has actively been involved himself with all the normal duties associated with as an executive officer or a chief of staff of a very large organization. He has performed his duties in a professional, exceptional manner. Mr. Chairman, you've had this language since January, and we've had multiple meetings since then. I asked you on March 23rd, where were you on this contract? And that was with me, Mr. Matthews, and the vice chairman. And you said, will you take 2 years? And he looked at
I've
you.
never said such a thing.
You asked him point blank, will you take 2 years? And I think the vice chairman can vouch for that. And he said yes. And now this is, and we've had multiple meetings since then. And then we get this contract language last night at 6:13 in the evening from the council secretary. But you point blank asked him, will you take 2 years? And he said yes, and you said okay, and you left.
Sandy, I'm not sure, why you're coming at me on this. I mean,
Because that's what you said, and that's what we were going with. And now it's changed to a year.
I've been
But got that?
Look, hear me out here.
Go
I
ahead.
think Mr. Paul Matthews doesn't realize who exactly he works for. He works for the people of Plaquemines Parish, and he's repeatedly, went against those best wishes. He went to Baton Rouge without telling any of the commissioners what he was doing. Maybe you knew. I wish you would have told us. And he went and spoke for a toll bridge that's going to be a detriment to the economy of the parish and a burden on the residents here. That's not acceptable to me. Furthermore, Paul, in internal meetings with industrial entities that would like to come here, when I was asking them to help pay for some infrastructure for they're going to use 4 million gallons or 1 million gallons of water a day, and we produce 4 million gallons of water per day, asking them to build this water tower. He blurts out in the meeting, oh, no, you don't need to do that. That's what this other thing is for. So, there are times I question his allegiance a whole lot. Is he a good fit for this parish? I don't believe so. So if you want to put me on the spot, there it is.
I put you on the spot, and you said it, and I think the vice chairman will admit.
Sandy, I've
You
been
said
in
it.
favor of a 2-year deal. That's something that Bo talked about, and I may have mentioned because it was a back and forth internally. I've never been in favor of 2-year. 1 is a compromise. I want to be very clear about that. 1 year is a compromise, and we hope that he turns around and starts representing the people of Plaquemines Parish like the commissioners would like to see.
Just to let you know, Mr. Chairman, there are 2 council members who have raised their hand. The first one was Councilmember Roussel. The second one is Councilmember Cognovich.
Whoever queued in first, please take this.
Councilmember Roussel?
Yes. Sandy, you have never heard about a 1-year extension from any of the port staff? The port leadership as far as the chairman or the vice chairman?
Mr. Roussel, I've heard 1 and 2 and 3. The last thing I got from Richie, and I asked him point blank in my office with the vice chairman and him, and he looked at Paul and said, can you live with 2 years? And he said, yes.
To be
Said,
clear,
okay, and left.
extraordinarily clear here. I mentioned there was a lot of back and forth. Look, hey, you're one of these guys that makes multi-million-dollar deals, Mr. Sanders. So you know how these things go. They're fluid, right? There's a lot of discussions. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of people that offer their input. Things change all the time. I can't guarantee something's going to be exactly the same from the time it begins until the time it finishes, and I'm sure you understand that quite well. So if things have changed, and I talked about some internal back and forth and where we're at, it doesn't mean that's something that I want. And this is a board made up of a diverse group of folks, and they want different things. What I want and what some of the other folks are much different things. But please don't pin any dates or anything like that for me, because I'm just one of 9.
Okay. We now have Commissioner Cognovich and then Commissioner Newberry.
I'm the one that called the meeting with Mr. Black, Ms. Newberry, Mr. Roussel, and I brought up the 1 year with stipulations, but Bo didn't want the stipulations, so we all agreed on the 1 year. And that's what we was gonna bring forward at the last council meeting that got canceled. So it's been on the board for a while, 1 year.
Would be Commissioner Newberry if you're ready for it.
Please unmute yourself.
Sorry. I didn't realize we were going to get to this point. There is some truth to what Sandy is definitely saying. If you go back to the last video, he was going to put on, Mr. Blink was going to put on the table a 2 year. I'm not sure his position on that 2 year, but there is some truth to what Sandy is saying. And he's correct. We've talked about a 1 year and a 2 year. And the commissioners that are supporting Mr. Matthews was trying to figure out we were going to support a 1 year or a 2 year where we had the votes at. So evidently we're in this pickle where we have 8 members today. And I think we need to move forward with the vote and see how it goes. I yield.
Thank you, Trudy.
I think Mr. LaFrance was waving his hand.
Kim, can
I'm
you
waiting
please?
for you. I got my money on this horse.
Mr. LaFrance, please unmute yourself.
Who just said they had their money on this horse?
You hear me now?
Yes, sir.
At the last port meeting, the port director and the chairman said that they was going to get together and come up with an agreement with the county. They was going to work it out. Now, evidently, I see it hasn't been worked out. So with me, I'm not going to support any contract until we have a calendar.
We have Councilmember Roussel with his hand raised.
How you doing?
Yes, Carlton, I understand because I was, committing to my other colleagues that I would support the 1 year with a calendar. But if we're not going to have a calendar, like I mentioned a little while ago, where's the accountability? So it's going to be hard for me to vote for any contract as well.
Would anybody that voted yes on that, on 6B, like to go back to reconsider? Oh, Mr. Sanders is trying to cue in.
Okay.
I would gladly support a calendar initiative if Mr. Matthews was extended here.
Okay, thank you very much.
His presence here is very valuable. He's a very valuable member to this team. He's a very valuable member to this community.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Good. Go ahead,
You
Kim.
have two commissioners with their hands raised. The first one was Mr. Cognovich. The second one is Mr. Black.
Okay, please go ahead. We'll go with the first in the queue.
Well, I made a commitment to Mr. Black, Ms. Newberry, and Mr. Roussel that I'd vote for the 1 year, so that's what I'm doing. I didn't make any agreements with the calendar, but I was for the calendar.
Commissioner Black, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm what Mr. Cognovich had said earlier, that I was in that meeting, and that's what we agreed on was the 1 year. And also reconfirm what he just said again. I'm not gonna go back and forth. I think that the 1 year contract as is, to give Paul the opportunity to answer some of the questions that some of the other commissioners have as far as allegiance and things like that, I think is more than appropriate. So with that, I would just like to yield and move forward with this 1 year amendment. And with that, I'd like to call a question.
Just to let you know, we have one more commissioner with a hand that has had his hand up throughout the entire time. So
That's fine. That's fine. Go ahead.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Roussel.
No, I don't have any more comments. I'm gonna vote my conscience.
Okay.
Anybody that voted yes on the calendar would like to go back for reconsideration?
Actually, it would have to be someone who voted no
All right.
because they were the prevailing side.
My apologies. Anybody who voted no on the calendar would like to go back for reconsideration?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Bo.
Yeah, since Mr. Russo had his opportunity to speak, I'd like to go back and call the question.
All right. All right. Let's call the question.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Arbro,
Yes.
Commissioner Gui,
Yes.
Commissioner Roussel,
No,
Commissioner Newberry,
Yes.
Commissioner LaFrance,
No.
Commissioner Blink,
No.
Commissioner Kognovich.
Yes.
5 yeses and 3 noes, so the legislation is adopted by a vote of 5 to 3.
Moving down the agenda.
6D is being deferred by the request of Commissioner Black. 6E, an ordinance to amend the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District 2020 operating budget of revenue and expenditures for receipt of federal funds from the Water Resources Reform and Development Act of 2014 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'd like to offer as read.
We have
I'll
not received a
second.
second.
I'll second. I'll second.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to call a question.
No, we have one member who raised their hand. That is Commissioner Roussel.
Okay. Please get him in the queue. Thank you.
administration, if there's been any commitment on any of these funds towards a project or any ideas of what this money will be used for.
All right. I'd like to call on the staff to answer that.
Y'all are unmuted.
So the funds are very strict, getting these funds from the federal government that we use to be within the port for potential dredging opportunities that extends to the navigation channel. These are funds that are to energy donor ports, which were won. These funds have basically been accumulating without a possible project. So we think we're going to work with Plaquemines Parish government, John Helmers in particular, work out a CEA and see if there's some opportunities to dredge some of the harbors, including, I believe Venice is going to be one of them. So John and I are working on that process, and obviously the attorneys are involved. We're very limited on what we can use those funds for, but those are directly to the port, and we're going to work that out with them, and we're in the process of doing so.
And so we're going to look at public harbors.
Yeah, we're looking at all that fall within the requirements and restrictions that are laid out by the court.
Would you mind forwarding us some of that information so we can review it?
Sure.
Thank you.
My hand's raised. No, my hand was raised. Hello?
We can hear you,
Sorry.
Councilmember
I was-
Newberry.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Like Mr. Roussel said, if Mr. Matthews can put together something so the board can look at the amount of money we received and what is the port's goals and what to do with that money. So I would appreciate if you put something together for the board to see.
I would also like to add that this legislation is only amending the budget to receive the actual revenue. So once the project has been created and discussed, as Mr. Matthews said, we will come forth again and have to amend the budget to reflect those expenditures. This is only the revenue.
Okay, thank you, Shimbrel.
Can this money be only used in public harbors, or private harbors could be used as well?
Public, sir.
Just public, all right.
Let's move on.
Are you ready to move forward, Commissioner?
I'd like to call a question.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Arbro,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooey,
Yes.
Commissioner Roussel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newberry,
Yes.
Commissioner LaFrance,
Yes.
Commissioner Blink,
Yes.
Commissioner Koknovich.
Yes.
The vote is adopted 9-0.
8-0.
8-0, thank you.
Moving on.
Item 7, new business, there is none. Item 8, approval of the minutes from the March 12, 2020 meeting.
So offered.
I'll second.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Arbro,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooey,
Commissioner Gooey, you need to unmute yourself, please.
Oh, I look like I'm unmuted. Yes. Mute.
Commissioner Roussel,
Yes. Oh, I'm not Roussel.
Commissioner Roussel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newberry,
Yes.
Commissioner LaFrance,
Yes.
Commissioner Blink,
Yes.
Commissioner Koknovich.
Yes.
And the minutes are adopted by a vote of 8-0.
I have a question.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Koknovich.
Can we have a reconsideration on the calendar vote?
I'll second it.
Well, it's got to be, the only person that can make a motion to reconsider the vote is the person who's on the prevailing side. So someone who voted no would have to make the motion because,
And we both did.
okay.
Commissioner Roussel, you voted yes.
Right.
On the calendar?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
yes. Yes, you're right.
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
There you go. You've got your motion. So you just need a second and then,
I'll second it.
I'll change my vote from no to yes.
But I
Yeah.
need to call.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the process is you have to vote on the motion to reconsider. If that motion passes, then you re-vote on the original resolution.
Okay.
Okay, this is a vote to reconsider. Commissioner Black,
Nope.
Commissioner Arbro,
No.
Commissioner Gooey,
No.
Commissioner Roussel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newberry,
Yes.
Commissioner LaFrance.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Newberry, what was your vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Blink,
Yes.
Commissioner Pognovich.
Yes.
And their consideration is adopted by a vote of 5-3.
All right. Yep. Any panelists have any questions, concerns?
We have to read the preamble once again.
Yeah. Now you're voting on that. You would have to take up that resolution again.
Right.
A resolution establishing a calendar policy for the administrative staff of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer.
Second.
Commissioner Black,
No.
Commissioner Arbro,
No.
Commissioner Gooey,
No.
Commissioner Roussel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newberry,
Yes.
Commissioner LaFrance,
Yes.
Commissioner Blink,
Yes.
Commissioner Pognovich.
Yes.
And the reconsideration is adopted by a vote of 5-3.
Actually, the resolution is adopted by a vote to 5-3.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just like to let the record reflect that if this would have passed originally, I would have voted for the 1-year contract.
Myself
can't-
as well.
Yeah.
There are no other items on the agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
I'm sorry, who's second?
I did.
Commissioner Black?
Abo. Panovich.
Got it?
Yes, we
Commissioner
have.
Black?
Yes.
Commissioner Arbro?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooey?
Yes.
Commissioner Roussel?
Yes.
Commissioner Newberry?
Yes.
Commissioner LaFrance?
Yes.
Commissioner Blink?
Yes.
Commissioner Pognovich.
Yes.
It's a vote of 8-0.
The meeting's
Go ahead.
No, you do it.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to a close at 6:04 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
The Plaquemines Parish Council, April the 23rd, 2020, is now called to order at 6:30 p.m. We'll have roll call.
Excuse me, Councilmember LaFrance?
Yes.
The time is 6:10 p.m.
I have 6:13. Okay, that's
13, I'm sorry, I thought you said 30.
Yeah, 6:13. We'll have roll call.
Councilmember Bartholomew is absent. Councilmember Black?
Here.
Councilmember Arbro?
Here.
Councilmember Gooey?
Here.
Councilmember Roussel?
Here.
Councilmember Newberry?
Here.
Councilmember LaFrance?
Here.
Councilmember Blink?
Here.
Councilmember Pognovich.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all council members are present except for Councilmember Bartholomew, who is absent.
Thank you. We'll move to item 2, which is executive session. We don't have any. Item 3, proclamation. We don't
There are
have.
none.
We'll move to item 4.
Status report by the parish president. Number 1, discussion regarding the recent mailers with the cable bills citing the franchise authority and legal department action.
Do we have anyone from the administration?
I don't have a report. Well, we have I can try to answer Mr. Roussel's question.
Mr. Levine, Mr. Russo.
I'm on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we had gotten some complaints from constituents about these cable bills, and they were citing the franchise agreement on the bill, on the authority. And I was wondering if y'all have had any opportunity to look into, do we need a franchise, or do we have a franchise that's been expired, and or the law has changed where we don't need a franchise?
All right, well, let me get Mr. Helmers in here in the other room to come answer by phone. So can you hold on 1 second?
Well, no, I don't want to eat up the time with that, Kirk. We can defer this to another time. It's not that important, but I did get complaints about it. It's been on the agenda since the last meeting, and under the conditions, I'll defer it till Helmers can get us a written answer, or email answer, or something, or at the next
Okay.
meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll move to the next item, please.
Update by the Charter Directors.
We have no report at this time.
We'll move to item number 5.
Bids and advertisements, there are none. Item number 6, beer and liquor licenses. I have one for Councilmember Black. It's for the Toast Event Room. It's an alcohol license renewal at 7427 Highway 23 in Belle Chase.
Offer.
You offer, I'll second it.
Councilmember Black,
No comments.
Councilmember
vote.
Albro,
Are we voting? Yeah, my vote's yes if we're voting.
Yes, we are voting. Barb, I think you need to go back to Councilmember Black.
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey,
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel,
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry,
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance,
Yes.
Councilmember Blink,
Yes.
Councilmember Koknovich.
Yes.
And it's approved by a vote of 8-0. Agenda item 7, building permits.
We'll take item 1 and 3 in grow vote.
Sure. Number 1, Hillcore Energy Company, application number 2020-186, dated March 4th, 2020. Plug and abandon 6 wells and remove appurtenant structures in approximately, it's missing off of here, but I believe it was 10 feet of flow line. Councilmember Blink. And Hillcore Energy Company, application number 2020-258, dated April 13, 2020. Perform annual maintenance prop washing on Tante Fine Pass area. Councilmember Koknovich.
I'd like to correct Hillcore. It was 10,537 feet of flow line. We apologize.
Thank you.
It was offered by Mr. Konovich.
Mr. Blink.
It was offered by Mr. Blink, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any question from the table? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Black,
I believe he is absent right now.
Councilmember Arbro,
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey,
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel,
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry,
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance,
Yes.
Councilmember Blink,
Yes.
Councilmember Koknovich.
Abstain.
And the vote passes by a vote of 6 to 0 with 1 abstention from Councilmember Kognovich, and Councilmember Black and Councilmember Bartholomew are absent. 7A2, Craig Klecker, application number 2020-249, dated April 7, 2020, install vinyl sheet pile bulkhead, 2784-B, Lake Hermitage Road, Port Sulphur, Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered.
Second.
Any questions from the table? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Black,
Is still absent.
Councilmember Arbrough,
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey,
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel,
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry,
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance,
Yes.
Councilmember Blink,
Yes.
Councilmember Kognovich.
Yes.
And it passes by a vote of 7-0 with 2 absent. Councilmember Black and Councilmember Bartholomew are absent.
Okay, we'll take item B and D in global fireworks stands.
B,
Yep.
Compagno Properties, Janice Compagno Fireworks Stand Renewal, 7836A, Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana, Councilmember Arbrough. And D, Cardinal Fireworks, Jason Fortenberry Fireworks Stand Renewal, 215 Avenue G, Belle Chase, Louisiana, Councilmember Gooey.
I offer.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Arbrough, seconded by Mr. Gooey. Any questions from the table? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Black? Councilmember Black?
He's still absent.
Councilmember Arbrough?
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey?
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel?
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry?
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance?
Yes.
Councilmember Blink?
Yes.
Councilmember Kognovich.
Yes.
And it passes by a vote of 7-0 with Councilmembers Bartholomew and Black absent.
Thank you. We'll move to
7C.
item number 8.
Pardon?
H. C. 7C.
7C. Harvey Properties LLC, Tide Harvey Trailer Park Renewal, Sooner Lane, Venice, Louisiana, Councilmember Kognovich.
We have a motion by Mr. Konovich. I'll second it. Any questions from the table? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Black? Still absent. Councilmember Arbrough?
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey?
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel?
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry?
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance?
Yes.
Councilmember Blink?
Yes.
Councilmember Kognovich. Councilmember Kognovich? I could tell you were saying yes.
Yes.
And it's adopted by a vote of 7-0 with Councilmembers Bartholomew and Black absent.
Thank you.
Introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Chairman, I have several introductions to read.
Please.
First one is for Councilmember Bartholomew. A resolution directing the termination of the cooperative endeavor agreement by and between Plaquemines Parish Government and Port Eads Fishing Refuge, Inc., and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. For Councilmember Roussel, a resolution expressing the Plaquemines Parish Council's support of the United States Coast Guard and commending the U.S. Coast Guard and its contractor Cuvion Group for their successful efforts to safely capture oil from the Taylor wells and to support the U.S. Coast Guard and BSEE in their resolve to ensure a final plug and abandon solution in this disaster and otherwise provide with respect thereto. For Councilmember LaFrance, I have the following for introductions. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, Civic Drive Fishing Pier Project, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. A resolution to direct Parish Special Counsel Brandon J. Taylor of Cosich, Summit, Parasola, and Taylor, LLC, to accept all pending eligibility notices, not to appeal any pending denial notices, and not to appeal any forthcoming notices, eligibility, or denial, as issued by the Claim Center for the parishes Halliburton, Transocean, HESI, class settlement claim, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. A resolution giving preliminary approval to the issuance of not to exceed $100 million aggregate principal amount of revenue funding bonds of the parish of Plaquemines, state of Louisiana, for the purpose of refinancing outstanding debt of the issuer, providing certain terms of said bonds, making application to the State Bond Commission for approval of said bonds, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. A resolution giving preliminary approval to the issuance of not to exceed $7,500,000 of revenue notes in one or more series of the parish of Plaquemines, state of Louisiana, making application to the State Bond Commission for approval of and providing for the sale of and certain terms of said revenues and providing for other matters in connection therewith. A resolution giving preliminary approval to the issuance of not exceeding $8 million of revenue anticipation notes of the parish of Plaquemines, state of Louisiana, providing certain terms of said notes, making application to the State Bond Commission for approval of said notes, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. The following introductions are for Councilmember Blink. An ordinance to accept a portion bid from Hillcore Energy LLP for mineral lease on Parish Tract 20-1, located in Section 17, Township 21, South Range 27 East, Buras Levy District, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, estimated to contain approximately 36 acres out of a total of 392 acres, more or less, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. In the final introduction, a resolution to reject the portion of bid for Hillcore Energy LLP for mineral lease on Parish Tract number 20-1, covering parish-owned property located in Section 17, Township 21 South, Range 27 East, Buras Levy District, Plaquemines Parish, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Thank you.
Ordinance and resolutions on second and final passage. 9A1, an ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended in the Comprehensive Zoning District Map, therein adopted by reference and which is paraphrased thereto with reference to application of the 2019-422, dated November 25th, 2019. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Do anyone like to offer it? Does anyone like to offer it?
I'll offer it, if that's what he wants.
Any second? Any second? Just move to the next item, please. It dies for a lack of a second.
9A2, an ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended in the Comprehensive Zoning District Map, therein adopted by reference and which is paraphrased thereto with reference to application of the 2019-419, dated November 25th, 2019. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Anybody like to offer it? Anybody? Anybody like to offer it? Measure failed for lack of a motion. We'll move to item 3.
An ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended in the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein, adopted by reference in which is paraphrased thereto with reference to application number 2019-420, dated November 25th, 2019. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Would anybody like to offer it? Anybody like to offer it? Do anybody would like to offer it? The item failed for lack of a motion. Move to the next item, please.
9A4, an ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended in the Comprehensive Zoning District Map, therein adopted by reference and which is paraphrased thereto with reference to application number 2019-421, dated November 25th, 2019. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Would anybody like to offer it? Anyone would like to offer it? Anyone would like to offer it?
Just let it fuck. Don't even read them. Johns.
And the measure failed for lack of a motion. Move to the next item, please.
9A5, an ordinance to amend and as amended readopt Article 3, Section 6-62 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances regarding docking in the Venice Boat Harbor to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 10-121 and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Kognovich.
I'll offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Konovich and now seconded by Mr. Blank. Mr. Konovich.
Mr. Helmers wanted me to introduce this, so I think it's about parking at the shrimp docks at the boat harbors. As read.
Any question from the table?
Yeah, Mark, just to be clear, if the harbor itself is filled up and people are forced to have to park at the shrimp dock, I mean, is this just until the harbor reaches its point where there's no more vacancy? Or is this, we're going to be running people out of the shrimp dock even though the harbor is jammed up?
Well, the ordinance itself said that you had so many hours to park at a shrimp dock, then you had to leave.
And by lease, some of those shrimp docks have a certain amount of spots allotted to them, right?
They could lease so many slips in the harbor. I think it's 6.
Okay, got it. I just don't want to put anybody out if there's no room.
Mr. Roussel.
Gonna impact the shrimp buyer who, does he allow them to park by his dock?
Yes, they do.
And does this prohibit them from parking at his dock?
If they leasing from the parish, it restricts them from parking there.
It makes them go in their slip, is what you're saying?
He could rent 6 slips in the harbor and they could go park in the slips.
All right. So this is John Helmer's recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions from the table? Question has been called for. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Black.
Abstain. I don't know anything about it.
Councilmember Arbrough.
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey.
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel.
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry.
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance.
Yes.
Councilmember Bling.
Yes.
Councilmember Kognovich.
Yes.
And it passes by a vote of 7-0 with 1 abstention from Councilmember Black. 9A6, an ordinance to amend and as amended readopt section 6.5 of Article 1 of Chapter 6, Boat, Marinas, Marine Vessels, and Terminals of the Parish Code of Ordinances and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. I'll yield to administration.
Okay. All right, Mr. Helmut is in the room. I'm gonna get him to come in and talk about this. This is an older ordinance that's being amended for the offloading and buying of seafood inside the harbors for an outside person to come in and have a permit to, say, buy or offload crawfish, oysters, shrimp at our dock facility. What this is changing the ordinance from it used to state oysters only. Now it's adding every type of seafood and anything that comes out our parish, out the marsh.
Any questions from the table? Hearing none. Question has been called for.
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Arbrough,
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey,
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel,
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry,
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance,
Yes.
Councilmember Blink,
Yes.
Councilmember Koknovich.
Yes.
And the ordinance passes by a vote of 8-0 with Councilmember Bartholomew being absent. 9A7.
We'll defer.
9B. A resolution denying the requested map change filed by Stacy Rowland from RS-2, which is Single Family Residential Zoning District, to RM2 Multiple Family Zoning District for lots 10, 12, and 14 of the St. Clair Estate Subdivision, Rue St. Clair, Braithwaite, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, all in accordance with application number 2019-422, dated November 25th, 2019. And this is for Councilmember Bartholomew.
Anybody like to offer it? Do anybody like to offer it? Would anyone like to offer it? Then the measure failed for lack of a motion. Next item, please.
9C, a resolution denying the requested map change filed by Stacy Rowland from RS-2 Single Family Residential Zoning District to RM-2 Multiple Family Zoning District for lots 1, 3, and 5 of the St. Clair Estate Subdivision, Rue St. Clair, Braithwaite, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, all in accordance with the application number 2019-419 dated November 25th, 2019. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Would anybody like to offer it? Would anyone like to offer it? Would anyone like to offer it? Then the measure failed for a lack of a motion. We'll move to the next item, please.
9D, a resolution denying the requested map change filed by Stacy Rowland from RS2 Single Family Residential Zoning District to RM2 Multiple Family Zoning District for lot 4 of the St. Clair Estate Subdivision, Rue St. Clair, Braithwaite, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, all in accordance with application number 2019-420 dated November 25th, 2019. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Would anyone like to offer it? Anyone like to offer it? Would anyone like to offer it? Then the measure failed for a lack of a motion. Move to the next item, please.
9E, a resolution denying the requested map change followed by Stacy Rowland from RS2 Single Family Residential Zoning District to RM-2 Multiple Family Zoning District for lots 7, 9, 11, and 13 of the St. Clair Estate Subdivision, Rue St. Clair, Braithwaite, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, all in accordance with application number 2019-421 dated November 25th, 2019. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Would anyone like to offer it? Would anyone like to offer it? Would anyone like to offer it? And the measure passed for a lack of a motion. Now,
9F will be deferred by the request of Councilmember withdrawn at the request of Councilmember Arbrough.
Withdrawn.
9G is being deferred at the request of Councilmember Gooey. 9H is being deferred at the request of Councilmember Gooey. Okay, 9I will also be deferred at the request of Director Taylor. 9J, an ordinance supporting and ratifying Plaquemines Parish Civil Service Commission Resolution Number blank attached hereto as Exhibit A, amending Civil Service Rule 4, Section 6.4, relative to overtime pay and otherwise provide with respect thereto. And Councilmember LaFrance, we do have a fill in the blank for this.
Yes, do you have a number?
Yes, sir. In the preamble, the resolution number from the Civil Service Commission is number 20-02, which also needs to be inserted on lines 6 and line 13.
Okay. I'll offer for discussion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. I'll yield the floor to the administration.
Someone has music playing.
It's the administration.
My shirt was on, Habo.
Yeah, I bet.
They probably have to get on a different line.
Okay, go ahead. Hello?
Item J.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you, Rennie.
Okay. So this was requested by the administration for civil services consideration. Civil service actually already voted on it, and they were asking for council approval. And essentially what this is about is we were in a situation where this holiday rule was getting to be very expensive, and it mostly affected shift workers, say like ferry workers. So the existing rules basically states that if it's a holiday, right, and this might be a ferry worker, he might have 10 hours on the holiday, he's going to get 10 hours of holiday pay. If he's called out to work, whether he works 1 hour or all 10 hours, he's going to get paid either time or time and a half on that, based on if he's already above 40 hours for the week. And the way this rule is written, it says even if he works 1 hour, the entire holiday hours count towards overtime computation purposes. So essentially you have an employee getting a regular rate for holiday pay, you have an employee getting whatever rate for those hours he's working that day, and you kick in another however many hours he would regularly be scheduled to work on that day into time and a half. So for some of these holidays, so like if the 4th of July fell on a Friday, you'd have an employee getting holiday pay, regular pay, and then depending on how many hours were scheduled that day, it would kick in another times half or time 1.5 on any hours above 40. So it was just getting very expensive and really draining the budget. So the FLSA rules, which is the federal rules and regulations that kind of govern overtime pay, basically say you only get paid time and a half on hours you work above 40. And this rule was kind of going way and above and beyond, I think, what was originally contemplated by the federal rule. And quite frankly, it was just getting really expensive. So we requested the change. Civil Service changed the rule. Now we're just asking the council to ratify the rule change.
Is there any question from the table? Any question from the table? So I would offer it. Mr. Konovich, would you second it?
Second.
Question been called?
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Arbrough,
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey,
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel,
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry,
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance,
Yes.
Councilmember Blink,
Yes, sorry.
Councilmember Kognovich.
Yes.
And the ordinance is adopted by a vote of 8-0 with Councilmember Bartholomew absent. Item K, an ordinance supporting and ratifying the Plaquemines Parish Civil Service Commission Resolution Number blank, attached hereto is Exhibit A, amending Civil Service Rule 4, Section 4.1 relative to merit increases and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And Councilmember, Mr. Chairman, we do have some fill in the blanks.
Please give us the numbers.
Fill in the blanks in the preamble on line 2, it would be resolution number 20-1. Also for the same number 20-1 on line 6 and line 13.
Offer.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Yield to the administration.
All right, so this is another civil service rule change. This, to be quite honest, was not something I thought was necessary, but the Civil Service Director and the Civil Service Commission basically said if you want this to happen, this is what we need to do. We need to change the rule. So as I explained in my email, the way I interpret the rule to currently read is that as long as you're in parish service for an entire year, then you are entitled to the merit increase. Okay, and so there's nothing wrong with that, and that's the way I interpreted the rule. Well, the Civil Service Director was saying, well, we think what it actually means is that you be in service for a year, or that you have a performance review, I think is the term they use, and your service rating be based off of an entire full year. And so, but that's not what the rule really says. And one of the ways where the issue came up is, I don't know if you all remember, but you used to get your service rating on your 1 year anniversary date. Well, we've since moved to September 1st being that day. And so there were quite a few people, not quite a few, maybe 10 people, I think, who fell between September 1st of 2018 and December 31st, 2018. And because, so in other words, when the eligibility date came up, which would have been January 1st this year, those persons would have had a full year of parish service, but they would not have a full year of parish service that would have come under what you would call the full review, I guess is what you would call it. So and I told the Civil Service Director, I said, well, you get a 6-month performance review, and then on September 1st, when you get your performance review for that first year, it's going to be less than a year. That's just what it is. Y'all changed the rule, and it's just based off of less than a year. But because the employee was actually in service for a full 365 days, regardless of the number of days that would come under the review, that employee should be entitled to the merit increase. So we changed the language with basically what civil service wanted, which quite frankly I think is, kind of not necessary, but hey, it is what it is. So the administration recommends the ratification of this rule change.
Is there any questions from the table? Any questions from the table?
Yes, sir. We have Councilmember Roussel would like to speak.
Mr. Roussel.
It is confusing. Am I on?
Yes, you are.
It is confusing because when we changed the date for the merit increase to be effective the first pay period in January of the year, the evaluations were supposed to be in by September. However, if you were hired after September and you had 3 months, September, October, and November, on the previous year, you would have to wait a whole year to get your evaluation like any other employee. So I don't understand why they're changing it either, but I'm not going to belabor the point on this platform for sure, but it doesn't make any sense to me because if you're hired in September, you're not evaluated until the following year, or do you get a pay raise January first paycheck just because you've been there 3 months?
No, so the rule, the absolute minimum you have to work for the pay raise eligibility date is a full 365 days. So So what happened is when we moved it to September, those people who fell through September to December, their evaluations were based off of going to be less than 1 full year. However, when the pay raise eligibility date, the merit increase eligibility date happened, which is January 1st, 2020, those people will have worked a full 365 days. So, I feel like we're talking in circles at this point, but the bottom line the council needs to understand is that you are not entitled to a merit increase unless you've worked for the parish a full 365 days, regardless of where your service rating review date may fall. So anyone who was hired after December 31st of last year will not be entitled to, say, if we had a merit increase January 1st next year, they would not be entitled to that increase.
You mean anybody hired between September and December?
Well, no. Now it doesn't. Now it doesn't really matter. Now if anyone hired in 2020 will not be January 1st through December 31st of this year will not be entitled to a merit increase should we have one in 2020. 2021. Sorry.
So anybody hired this year doesn't get a merit increase if they've been here for 8 months,
For
9
next-
months, right?
Correct. So if you were hired on January 1st of 2020, you are not entitled to a merit increase next 2020. You would have to wait until 2022 to be eligible for that increase.
That yields, if that's your interpretation of what's going on, but I'm still a little confused. But anyway, I yield.
Rennie, is there a cost savings or anything? Are there any numbers behind that? Or is this just procedure?
No, this really has nothing to do with cost savings. This is just the way the Civil Service Director and Commission was interpreting the rule. And basically, I just disagreed with it, but they were like, if this is what you want, this is what we have to do. And so basically, if we don't change this rule, Civil Service's current interpretation is those employees who were hired between September and December of the year before last will not get this year's merit increase. And as a matter of fact, the merit increases have gone in effect for what, at least 2 or 3 months now, 2 or 3 months. And those employees who fell within that September-December range currently aren't getting that increase in their check. So we're going to have to go back and give them those funds that we have not been depositing in their accounts since the first pay period of 2020.
Could this be deferred? Figure this out a little bit more?
Yes.
You can defer it. I guess you can defer it if you want. What I'm telling you is it has no overall. If your concern is budget, it's not going to have any effect one way or the other on the overall budget. So it's not a budget issue. It's a interpretation issue. And I honestly think Civil Service is reading this rule wrong. So at some point, those employees could sue the parish and say, where's my merit increase? And if we went to court, we would lose. Because if you read the rule clearly says that all you need is a calendar year of parish service. See, it says employee has completed 1 year of parish service. So I'm recommending we move forward so we can get these employees the pay they're entitled to. And look, I wouldn't be coming here before you on this issue, but Civil Service is, making an issue out of this, and I'd like to move forward.
Okay, Councilmember Black has his hand raised.
Mr. Black?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now I'm even more confused because you just said that you recommend moving forward on this, but then on the other hand, you said if we move forward on this, we could get sued. So, I mean,
No, I meant the opposite.
Lose.
Well, then I misspoke. I meant to say if we don't move on it, we can be sued. So if I misspoke, I apologize.
Okay, yeah. All right, that's fine. Thanks.
Any more questions from the table? Administration? Any more questions from the table?
There are no hands raised.
Excuse me?
I was just saying there are no hands raised, sir.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Arbrough,
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey,
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel,
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry,
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance,
Yes.
Councilmember Blink, Councilmember Blink. Councilmember Blink is absent. Councilmember Koknovich.
Yes.
And the vote is the ordinance is adopted by a vote of 7-0 with council members Bartholomew and Blink absent. (9L) will be deferred at the request of Councilmember Newberry. 9M will be deferred at the request of Councilmember Black. 9N, a resolution concerning approval of partial settlement of the following litigation as to defendant Freeport McMoran. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered.
I'm sorry, we have changes to that, Barb?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And bear with me and I will read the changes. And we also have public comments. The changes are in the preamble on line 2, changing Freeport McMoran to read Freeport Sulphur Company and Freeport McMoran Oil and Gas LLC and related parties as provided in the partial settlement and authorizing the parish president to do all things necessary and proper to carry out said partial settlement. In section 1 on line 11, we are removing the words provided in the executive session held this date. On line 13, we're removing Freeport McMoran and replacing it with Freeport Sulphur Company and Freeport McMoran Oil and Gas LLC. On line 16, we're inserting and further authorities of the parish president to do all things necessary and proper to carry out said partial settlement. On page 2 in section 2, we're on line 20, we're taking out the word Freeport McMoran and inserting Freeport Sulphur Company and Freeport McMoran Oil and Gas LLC. On line 24, we're removing Freeport McMoran and replacing that with Freeport Sulphur Company and Freeport McMoran Oil and Gas LLC. And that completes the changes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
We do have one
Barb,
public
Barb,
comment. Yes.
Barb, we have to get a second before we can do that.
So offered. Do I have a second?
A second.
We have a second by Mr. Arbrough. Could you read the emails?
Sure. The email was received by Betsy Pavlovich, and it was received on Thursday, April the 23rd at 11:43 a.m. And the message is as follows. Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to allow a platform for public comments during this unprecedented time. The council meeting, agenda item 9N, please forgive my ignorance of this topic. Is there any way I can get more details of this partial settlement with Freeport McMoran?
Okay, that was the only comment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll yield the floor to, if there's any questions, I'll yield the floor to Mr. Brandon Taylor. Is there any questions from the table? Is there any questions from the table? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Black,
Abstain.
Councilmember Arbro,
Yes.
Councilmember Gui,
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel,
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry,
I had something to say. I couldn't find where I raised my hand at. Can I say something?
Yes, you may.
In the beginning, I understood. I've had some phone calls from some constituents about this litigation. I think it was maybe misinterpreted or misread by some constituents. I took a stand on not voting on oil field litigation, but after speaking to council about this legislation or this resolution, this is strictly a settlement that Mac Moran is offering. And so I will continue my vote. I will vote on this matter, and I'm voting yes.
Okay. Next vote.
You?
Councilmember LaFrance,
Yes.
Councilmember Blank,
Yes.
Councilmember Koknovich.
Abstain.
And the resolution is adopted by a vote of 6-0, with Councilmember Bartholomew being absent and an abstention vote from Councilmembers Black and Koknovich. 9O has been deferred at the request of Director Epley. 9P, an ordinance to amend the 2020 operating expenditure budget general.
Ms. Barber, we'd like to defer that.
Okay, this has been deferred at the request of the administration. 9Q, an ordinance to amend the 2020 general fund operating expenditure budget, legal judgments department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer for discussion.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Convich. Mr. Beers?
Press unmute. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer any questions you guys have. This is a settlement that you all previously authorized and approved and voted on. This is the appropriation for that settlement. I think that's it.
Any questions from the table?
Yes. Yes, we have Councilmember Roussel that raised his hand. Councilmember Roussel? Councilmember Roussel?
Yes, Mr. Abiris, would you tell us how much the appropriation is for the public?
The appropriation amount is $200,000. Also, this has been submitted to FEMA for reimbursement. It's our hope and our counsel, Mr. Gaffney's belief that this should be reimbursed by FEMA. But as you all have been told, settlements cannot be conditioned on a reimbursement by FEMA. And so regardless of what FEMA decides or doesn't decide, we have to move forward with the appropriation to settle the case anyway. The opposing side does understand that because of our ongoing cash flow problems, we would intend to hold this amount at least up until September 1st, hoping that FEMA will obligate the funds and therefore hopefully it wouldn't have an effect on our overall cash flow, although I can't guarantee that. But we structured it in such a way that we hope that is the likely outcome.
Well, I hope that it's correct, because 200,000 is going to be hard to come by.
Any more questions from the table? Any more questions from the table? I'll make the motion. Mr. Conlon is still second.
Yes.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Black,
Yeah.
Councilmember Arbrow,
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey,
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel,
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry,
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance,
Yes.
Councilmember Blink,
Yes, I'm having issues with mute.
Councilmember Kognovich.
Yes.
And the ordinance is adopted by a vote of 8-0 with Councilmember Bartholomew absent. 9R, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, waterline replacement, Highway 39 project, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Would anybody like to offer it? Would anyone like to offer it? Would anyone like to offer it? Then the measure fails for lack of a motion. We'll move to the next item, please.
Agenda item 10, new business. There are no resolutions where suspension is being sought. Item 6B is deferred at the request of Councilmember Kognovich. 10B, 10C, District 5 update, Councilmember Roussel, Susie Bayou update.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes,
There you go.
I'd like to ask, the project, as I understand it, was delayed because we were looking for another disposal site. Can we get some clarification on why the project was put on hold and what new disposal site was sought after?
I don't have an answer for you, Mr. Russo, but I will get one.
Okay, I'll defer the item.
Um, 10D, District 8 update is deferred at the request of Councilmember Blink. 10E, District 3 update is deferred at the request of Councilmember Arbrow. 10F is deferred at the request of Councilmember Arbrow. 10G, District 1 update. Is this deferred since Councilmember Bartholomew is not here?
Yes, deferred.
H, District 7 update.
I just want to let everyone know that our post-self library is being worked on every day. CDW is out there. They're working pretty good, even though with the coronavirus issue. But they're moving pretty good on our project. Thank you. That's it.
Number 11, approval of the minutes from the March 12th, 2020 meeting.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Panovich. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Arbrow,
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey,
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel,
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry,
Yes.
Councilmember LaFrance,
Yes.
Councilmember Blink,
Yes.
Councilmember Kognovich.
Yes.
And the minutes are approved by a vote of 8-0 with Councilmember Bartholomew being absent.
Thank you.
Chairman, there are no more items on the agenda.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Panovich. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Arbrow,
Yes.
Councilmember Gooey,
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel,
Yes.
Councilmember Newberry,
Yes.
Councilmember Blink,
Yes.
Councilmember Kognovich.
Yes.
And the vote is passed by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, thank you. Plaquemines Parish Council meeting is now adjourned at 7:09 p.m.
Everybody stay safe.